Okay, another day, another video log. It's Friday, September 19, 2025. Today was my mythology day, as most Fridays are. Every Friday is. But I've decided to cut back on all the super intense studying. I feel like I usually do like 4 books a day and I annotate all of them. Annotating is pretty exhausting. I mean, I feel like I'm getting a lot better at it, but it's just sometimes I just want to kick back and read, and so that's what I'm doing. Trying to try weeks where I just do two. Who cares? I said myth, but I'm gonna start off with continuing my thoughts on Giovanni's Room, which I've been reading, and I still really like it. I don't know. I read parts. Sorry, I read chapters 1 and 2 of part 2, and I'm enjoying it so far. It's developing quite nicely, and I really enjoy James Baldwin's prose. Yeah. Okay. Started off with. Oh, actually, I think I wrote down some quotes that I liked. "If dirty words frighten you," said Giovanni, "I really do not know how you have managed to live so long. People are full of dirty words. The only time they do not use them, most people I mean, is when they are describing something dirty." I really, really like his dialogue as well, the way he writes dialogue. And then another point, "Yet at every moment there passed between us on the pavement another boy, a stranger, and I invested in him at once with Giovanni's beauty, and what I felt for Giovanni, I also felt for him." Just so, what a way to sort of transfer the way, I said way too many times, to transfer one's emotions onto another, to shift the focus of that, but to still maintain the intensity of that emotion. And that happens, but it's not often something that's described or caught with language, and in such a beautiful way. I just really liked it. Okay, it just feels so right. Okay, and then the hero with 1,000 faces, I read by Joseph Campbell. I read the chapter on supernatural aid. So if you don't know about this book, I guess it kind of talks about I don't know, the hero's journey and how it recurs in myth, and that's basically. I feel like I'm really flattening it into something right now, but that's okay. A few quotes for those who have. Okay, how do I want to say this? The supernatural aid, when one accepts the call to adventure, there is usually a figure, often. Here, for those who have not refused the call, the first encounter of the hero journey is with a protective figure, often a little old crone or old man, who provides the adventurer with amulets against the dragon forces he is about to pass. So, I mean, you can think off the top of my head, European stories often have like a fairy godmother. I think for the Christians, it's like the saints. Okay, here. In Christian saints' legends, the role is commonly played by the Virgin. Go further on. What such a figure represents is the benign, protecting power of destiny. So someone to reinforce. I say reinforce a lot, but to propel that notion, that figure, the hero, the self, forwards. Not infrequently, the supernatural helper is in a masculine form, so it doesn't just show up in a feminine form. Sometimes it can be like a wizard, a hermit, a shepherd, or smith. The guide, the teacher, the ferryman, the conductor of souls into the afterworld is usually, I suppose, in higher classical myth. So the Hermes Mercury, then also Thoth, or the Holy Ghost, or even for Goethe in his Faust, Mephistopheles. So not infrequently, the dangerous aspect of the mercurial figure is stressed. So because, and I say mercurial, this figure that can pass between different realms. So like Dante's Virgil. For he is the lurer of the innocent soul into realms of trial. I just thought that was pretty cool. No, it wasn't just cool. It was an explanation of what the helper is, and then often even in Jungian depth psychoanalysis, particularly concerning one's self as their anima or animus before it starts I suppose reincarnating. It's not reincarnating, but showing itself as, I don't know, even is the cosmic man. I don't know. There's a point in which one develops that self, and they show up as like a old, like wiser individual, like this Merlin figure. Merlin. There you go. So I also really like to quote that Napoleon sort of captures this this feeling that one is overcome with when under the spell of that undeniable force down towards one's path. I feel myself, said Napoleon at the opening of his Russian campaign, driven towards an end that I do not know. As soon as I shall have reached it, as soon as I shall become unnecessary, an atom will suffice to shatter me. Till then, not all the forces of mankind can do anything against me. And that is pretty powerful. I don't know, it did something to me. I was like, ooh, okay. And then another quick quote that Campbell cited, Dr. Steckel. That's a nice name. All dreams, Dr. Steckel observes, have a bisexual tendency. Where the bisexuality cannot be perceived, it is hidden in the latent dream content. I just thought it was a interesting. I gotta get better at saying not interesting and cool, but whatever. It was. I don't know. Sometimes one has strange dreams, and then it validates or untangles the strangeness or of that, what that could be, if bisexuality in dreams, because it is, when you do conjure one of the opposite sex or of the same sex, it's all still you. You're the one coming up with all these, your brain is the one coming up with all these images. So it's just yeah. And another quote, the well is a symbol of the unconscious. I really like this because not too long ago I wrote a poem that includes a bottomless well or mentions something of this sort, and I forget what happens in it, but somehow it reminded me of that moment, and I think the rest of the poem sort of unravels in a sense of almost active imagination, if I could even call it that, but which is often sometimes a stretch of the conscious to the unconscious, and sort of you get to float between that realm, which sounds very esoterrestrial, but I don't know, I could just be making it up. It could just all be in my head. So, indistinctly, to something going on in a zone of which he was entirely unconscious, the destiny of life, reluctant, Kamar al-Zaman began to fulfill itself without the cooperation of his conscious will. So sometimes you don't even, it's not even up to you. It just, shit just starts rolling, and you're just already in it. And so I thought that was a fun chapter read for today. And then I read Siddhartha because I finished Gilgamesh last week, and I wanted to supplement it with something. I wanted to move on. And I've had this copy for a while, and it was even recommended to me to read in high school, but because I was taking a religions class, I think, and I just didn't. I liked learning, but I wasn't the best student, and I was okay. But I still love learning. I just didn't care about the class at the time. I didn't care about school. It was fine. It was just a moment when I was like 17. And I read the first 2 chapters, the ones concerning just the beginning, of course, the son of the Brahman's son, and then with the Samanas. I don't know if I'm messing that up. And lots of really great quotes in here, man. Interestingly enough, I guess Herman Hesse, Swiss writer, but he was also pretty into Jungian analysis, and so I suppose it played some sort of influence into his writing of this. But I'll read off some quotes because that's what's gonna happen. We will not waste words, Govinda, he says softly. I really like this because I saw this in I think it was some book of questions. Just sometimes words cannot ascribe to something, and it just ends up being more exhausting. And why even have the dialogue if I'm not going to be able to communicate what I'm trying to say in a given moment, and B, you're not going to get it. I don't know. So it's just why waste words, Govinda? But I really like Govinda as a character because he immediately gets tied into as sort of a shadow-like figure. I forget how exactly it was phrased, but yeah, I believe at the end of the first chapter, he's described as a crouching shadow that follows Siddhartha, and he wants to follow Siddhartha into sort of on his path. And I don't know if in Jungian depth psychology there's something called the shadow, which I'm not going to explain. Why waste words, Govinda? Okay. All were not worth a passing glance. Everything lied, stank of lies. There were illusions of sense, happiness, and beauty. All were doomed to decay. The world tasted bitter. Life was pain. Then on the next page, he was an animal, carcass, stone, wood, water, and each time he reawakened, although the paths took him away from self, in the end, they all led back to it, the torment of the wondrous life cycle. So Siddhartha ends up going off with the Samanas, and with Govinda as well. And he finds through their sort of ascetic lifestyle all these things that he's doing, fasting, meditating, abandoning his body. He ultimately finds is just another escape from the self, which always ends up coming back, or one always returns to. And that really got me thinking about just everything that is some sort of distraction from the self. Even reading, which is a sort of meditation in its own. I don't know. In The Conspiracy Against the Human Race, Thomas Ligotti discusses Zaps, who is, I believe, a Norwegian pessimistic philosopher, and he describes 4 things that we do to distract ourselves from existence, and that it just lined up very easily. Just distracting. In this case, it's from the self, but in that case, it's from death, the end of existence, I suppose. But I don't know. I could be messing that up. But okay, so basically to sum that up, another quote: what is meditation? What is abandonment of the body? What is fasting? What is the holding of the breath? It is a flight from the self. It is a temporary escape from the torment of self. It is a temporary palliative against the pain and flow of life. Did I misquote that? The folly of life. Come on, man. But yeah. And then Govinda says later on, we have learned much, Siddhartha. There still remains much to learn. We are not going in circles. We are going upwards. The path is a spiral. We have already climbed many steps. I really love this idea too. This sort of spiral upwards, but also spiral inwards. One talks about a descent into the pit of the self, which can seem very bottomless, and then even the ascent, this vertical progression, ascending typically towards heaven, but also a descent can be taken towards the underworld, which can also be seen as the unconscious, if we take it in sort of James Hillman's idea of Hades. Sorry. Or of hell. But then you look at Dante's Divine Comedy, which is the next thing I read, and I don't know, it's also a lot of spirals. But then also I was reading yesterday in Eugene Thacker's In the Dust of This Planet, the 5th Lectio, which I did post the video on, but I just felt like I was complaining too much, so I didn't want to keep it up because it was embarrassing. And Uzumaki's spiral in or Junji Ito's Uzumaki there, that sort of ends up bleeding into reality, or our reality, and that being sort of compared with the magic site. Oh man, super cool. No, not cool. Super not interesting either. Okay, next quote. I gotta finish this up. I have become distrustful of teachings and learning that I have little faith in words that come to us from teachers. Nothing like an autodidact. I don't know. What can't experience itself teach? What can't literature and books teach? I mean, this can sort of get into another thing, where I have like issues with with higher education or education as a whole. I'll dip into it for just a brief moment because I think it's worth talking about. Impassionate teachers, but also teachers are like the direct or the direct source for children to learn. But what happens when it's like teachers' motivations, they're not getting like paid enough. Some of them just aren't good teachers, but then also sometimes the kids don't care, and then it's just a double like negative, or it doesn't often implying a double negative would be equal, like some would ideally result in some sort of positive, but that doesn't seem to be the case. It just seems to be like a greater negative. So it's not a double negative, it's just one big negative, because I guess the students and the teachers act as one sort of flowing call and response. But when a band is up playing, a jazz band is up playing live, you don't see two players doing solos just as two separate entities. They do sort of become one, and that's just not happening. Yeah, especially when you're like in an on-level class, because in public school education, there's sometimes, I don't know, at least where I was growing up, there's like on-level, and then there's like honors, and then there's accelerated for math. And as the moment you get to just like on-level, you're just like, oh, fuck it, I'm not as smart as all the other kids. I'm just gonna mess it, like whatever. And everybody's like on that page. I remember in my chemistry class, it was just kids just not giving up, like just not caring at all. And the teacher didn't really care either, because she could tell the students weren't caring. It was just, yeah. But also, people can teach themselves things. That's like not, like, knowledge is somewhat neutralized now via the internet, so whatever. Not whatever. Siddhartha said, "Let us enjoy this fruit and await further ones, Govinda. This fruit for which we are already indebted to Gautama, this sort of new Buddha figure that's come into the action, consists in the fact that he has enticed us away from the samanas. Whether there are still other and better fruits, let us patiently wait and see." So they do end up leaving the samanas, and then towards the end, Siddhartha says, "I have no desire to walk in water. Let the old samanas satisfy themselves with such arts." And so that's just kind of like a fun little fuck you to the to like, fuck them. I don't need that shit. So then I read the Divine Comedy as another sort of myth to add into the mix. I just read cantos 1 through 3. I've heard so much. I mean, I feel like I know I've read more quotes or more references to this than anything ever. So I felt like it was time, and I've had it on my shelf for like forever. Another forever. So, yep. Kind of just gets right into it. There's a really fun depiction of like a sort of swarm roof, but I have one quote. In autumn, leaves are lifted one by one away until the branch looks down and sees its tatters all arrayed upon the ground. In that same way did Adam's evil seed hurtle in sequence from the river rim as birds that answer to their handler's call. I don't really know if I've read enough to have that many thoughts on this, but I liked what I read. I mean, I did not look intently. I saw a banner running so rapidly, whirling forwards, that nothing, it seemed, would ever grant a pause. Drawn by that banner was so long a trail of men and women, I should not have thought that death could ever have unmade so many. A few I recognized, and then I saw and knew beyond all doubt the shadow of the one who made from cowardice the great denial. So I, at that instant, was wholly sure this congregation was the worthless mob, loathsome, alike to God and their own enemies. These wretched souls were never truly alive. They now went naked and were sharply spurred by wasps and hornets thriving all around. The insects streaked the face of each with blood, mixing with tears. The lines ran down, and then were garnered at their feet by filthy worms. I'm just like, whoa. That's just in the third canto, not even 15 pages in. This is the Robin Kirkpatrick translation. But yeah, man, that was Myth Day. Pretty good day. Yeah. And then afterwards, I went out to go get dinner, just solo, and got a drink, and enjoyed myself, because it's Friday, and I can still do that instead of door dashing, or be cooking. I can mostly cook. I'm tired of making eggs and frozen burritos, and sauteing the same 4 vegetables every day for dinner. So, okay. I will talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.